Welcome. Sorry, my computer just got really laggy.
Oh, weird.
Okay, now we're good. It was like as soon as I pressed record, I like everything froze for like a solid 2 seconds. I was like, I hope that- okay. Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you today?
Well, I am currently breaking a fever. So if I look terrible, please don't watch YouTube because I do. I know I do. My face is very red. Um, but otherwise I'm okay. I always get sick when I come down from stress. And so I
Mhm.
don't think it's even like sickness. I think it's just fever and aches. Like I took a COVID test and I'm negative. And but every time I'm like stress level
Yeah.
midnight, I'm like, and I come back from that. I come back and this is how I am for like 3 to 5 days. So I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm just a little sick. I'm chugging water. I just had some hot soup. And I'm just trying to take it a day at a time. I slept quite a bit today. We're recording a couple of days. I've already said this, but this was my last day.
Yeah.
Yesterday was my last day at the office. So I was just spending a lot of today recovering and sleeping and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I'm okay, making it through. How are you?
Um, I've been better. Nothing's wrong, really. What a day. What a life. The Buffalo Bills have decided to destroy my fiance's will to live. Um,
Which was very rude of them.
Very rude of them. I mean, the thing is, Stefan Diggs is a toxic relationship for Buffalo. It goes in cycles, and every offseason we do the same. Will he quit legally? Won't he? Is he gonna show up to practice? Is he gonna do anything? It's like dating a toxic person. And the Buffalo Bills decided to end the cycle of toxicity and trade him, and that's all well and good, but they did it for a terrible pick. And Dan is acting like someone just like killed a family pet. Like he's so upset by it. And I think part of it is because he didn't sleep last night. And so he's just
I'll do it.
like, I know he's upset. Like he gets really, really into this. He like has like multiple draft, like mock draft things. He has a spreadsheet with like every person who's going to be eligible for a draft pick, like from college this year and next year. He like
Oh gosh.
researches all these fucking college kids. Like he puts time into football. But he also didn't sleep last night. So I really think that the like level of like emotional processing that
Yeah.
is happening is more due to that.
Yeah.
Um, but so even though I told him I was not going to spend any time with him today because I had shit to do. I did go sit with him so that he did not lose his mind.
So he didn't be as sad. That was
Um,
very sweet of you.
it was, I know, but I had a meeting with my principal and it went really well. And we both thought it was going to be a lot more complicated to get shit to work, and it wasn't. And it only took us like an hour and a half to do everything we needed to do. And
Nice.
it was really good. So that was great. But I'm just still like, I'm overwhelmed because I just feel like my break is almost over and I haven't done any of the work that I really need to do, which is just frustrating. But also, like, my
Hmm.
break only feels like it's almost over because I work at Shays all weekend. But also, when I'm at Shays is when I get most of my work done. So, like, I
It's
still
really for the
have
best.
I still have like 4 full days of productivity ahead of me, but I'm like, it's Wednesday and I've done
I know.
nothing. So,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I
I'm
really
just,
hid the the whatever it's called. I forgot to tell you, the electricity's gone out twice today over the house. I think I told you. I didn't
you
realize
don't,
whenever. Mark got home, I was like, oh, by the way, the electricity went out. I set the clocks in the kitchen. I was like, but if you had to change anything else, he was like, huh, also went out this morning before you woke up. I was like, oh, good. So it went out twice. So I'm just weak, I guess, because I couldn't open the stupid fuse box. And it's flooding. So the house is just like, yeah.
I don't have quite so many issues as you do, but I did. I was really grateful that we paused recording before my meeting instead of
Mhm.
trying to do another episode before I had to leave for the meeting
Me too.
because my internet like would I had to refresh YouTube 18 times just to load the watch later playlist because the internet just
Jeez.
like would not work because of the rain.
Yeah, I took a nap.
I also
Amongst
took
other
a
things, but I did take a nap.
I also took a nap today, so that's good. But yeah, no, we so who knows if the internet gets real weird during this podcast, it's because we're both struggling with weather and
Yeah.
electricity. So cool.
Mhm.
Um, but you know what might be just enough to keep the lights on?
Well, yes, I do. It's our spirituality. Um, I have this one today. Is good for both of us to keep in mind because we are bad at it. Um, Rest is crucial to ensure you don't burn out. Don't let anyone guilt you into taking a step back and taking a well-needed break. Sometimes you need to pause so you don't collapse. Samira Vivek from her book Tunnel Vision.
Okay, that's a beautiful quote, but like what if the only person guilt tripping you about taking a step back is yourself?
Correct. Well, this is also to you then. It is to you as a person or anyone else who tries to guilt trip you.
Because like everyone else is like, no, you deserve this rest. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I don't.
I know. I'm the same way. They're like, it's good you quit your job and are doing something different. And I was like, but now I'm homeless and jobless. No, this is good. And I'm like, okay. So when everyone's
Okay.
happy I quit my job, and that feels like a sign that
Yeah,
I should have taken a break a little bit sooner than this week.
probably.
And getting whatever this flu-like thing is I have. My body's been aching for like 24 hours. I don't even know what's going on.
That's great. We're doing so well.
Yeah.
But at least now we get to talk about a very exciting episode of Stargate.
Me
Um,
too.
Today we are talking about Stargate SG-1 Season 5, Episode 16, Last Stand. It is rated 8.1 stars, which, if you will remember from last
It's
week,
the
is
same as
the
last week.
same as last week. Although I don't think that that is accurate.
I agree that it is not accurate. I it's very different. I think I said this last week too, but I would give it like closer to like an 8.6, maybe even 8.7. Like it was a pretty good episode, and
Yeah,
it really sets up a lot of stuff for the future, even more than the first part did. And it
yeah.
has so many things, like big things are happening. Like it was really well done.
I really like this episode. So, it came out on March 29th, 2002. So I am now 10 years old. Uh,
Excellent. Happy birthday.
Thank you. The same song and book from last week, but as we discussed on last week's podcast, it is a Friday in March, which means we have a new movie for our number one
Holla.
movie. And this one, again, back to I was 10, so I didn't watch these kinds of movies. I didn't know this movie existed, but every detail about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. This movie is called Panic Room.
Oh yeah, I think I watched it.
It
I think
is
I
a
watched it
David
during Halloween horror movie nights that I do.
Probably. It is a David Fincher film starring Jodie
Mhm.
Foster, with Kristen Stewart as her daughter. And they move into a house with a panic room, and a bunch of like burglars break in. But really the only
I
note
have
that
not seen it.
but a bunch of like really famous people play the
Mhm.
burglars, including Forrest Whitaker. And the thing that made me say, oh, that checks out, Jared Leto.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I have not watched this yet, but I am familiar with it. I do want to watch it, but it's only on MGM Plus right now, so that's why I haven't watched it.
Right. Yeah, but Jodie Foster and Kristen Stewart hiding from Jared Leto in a panic room, nothing, that doesn't even sound like a movie. That just seems like
No,
it
it
might
sounds like something
happen.
that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or could happen. Who's to say it won't happen in the future? All those people are
Right.
still alive.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the number one movie. Again, 10-year-old me was not watching those kinds of
No.
movies. Um,
No, me either.
I like I said on last week's podcast, finding news right now is not easy because we were so deep into the war on terror post 9/11 that like there was like not a lot of interesting things to say that were not like really negative. It was Good Friday, apparently.
Hmm.
And so the White House made a press briefing about how the lawn egg hunt would be televised. And everything else was depressing, and I didn't want to talk about it.
Did they
So
do that this year? I feel like
I
I haven't heard about it in like maybe a couple years. I don't know if
Well,
that's
they
true.
definitely stopped it for COVID.
Right.
I thought they brought it back last year, but you're right. I didn't hear
Excellent.
anything about it this
Let's
year.
see. White House lawn Easter egg hunt. Those are a lot of words I just put down. Um, yep, they did it.
Okay.
40,000 people and 64,000 eggs. 144th White House Easter egg.
All right. Who held the first Easter egg roll on the White House lawn? Rutherford B. Hayes in 1878, in case you care. Um,
Excellent. Good for him.
and
I don't
that's
know that he did
I
anything else. I don't
That's
know a
what I
lot about
say.
him.
I was gonna say that's a good thing because if there's a lot of presidents that I know a lot of random things about, but if you asked me any details about Rutherford B. Hayes, I probably couldn't tell you one, but now I can. He started the
Now you
Easter
can.
egg. He
Excellent.
started
It's at
the
least a
Easter egg
good
roll.
one.
Yeah.
Love it. Love
Uh,
it.
this episode was directed by Martin Wood, written by Robert C. Cooper, and edited by Rick Martin. Now, the interesting thing about that is that
It's completely different from
only
last week.
only the director is the same. Martin Wood directed both
Oh, Martin
halves,
Lewis
but
directed last week. Okay.
yeah, but the writing and the editing were both different this week. And
And they didn't
that's
feel like disconnected, but I mean, they're all, the writers from last week and this week
y-
are regulars. So,
yeah, but also Robert C. Cooper, Joseph Mosey, and Paul Mully are all not only writers, they're also story supervisors and editors on or and producers
mhm,
on the show. So I'm sure nothing really gets past that, like in terms of like,
sure.
yeah. Um, the guest that we would like to, I'm going to talk about is Vince Cristeo, who plays you. Um, he is known for I, Robot, The Day After Tomorrow, and Paycheck and X2. But for all four of those movies, he's actually known for doing stunt work. He only has about five
Oh,
acting credits. Stargate is basically the only thing he did where he wasn't only doing stunts. He also has no credits since 2008 and no internet presence that I can
good for
find.
him.
He just did his thing and then left. Like
Then took a nap.
yeah. But I did while I was looking him up and trying to figure out if I could find anything, I found a Reddit page where someone asked about him and about like how he's like
Right.
seemingly disappeared. And the like comments on the Reddit page were like a lot of people who are like guest stars and things like this and like the Vancouver acting scene don't really do much outside of the Vancouver acting scene. So you'll see them all showing up a lot in that world of shows, but not really anywhere else. So like,
Yeah.
or maybe he just like didn't want to do it anymore. And then they brought up the fact that I know we've talked about it on the podcast before, but they brought up the fact that Peter Wingfield, who plays Tanith,
Mhm.
is currently an anesthetologist or anesthetist.
Yeah.
And the
Can you
comment
remind me what
though,
that is?
it's anesthesia, like they do anesthesiology for like
Anna,
hospitals.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the comment was like, could you imagine if you were going into surgery and the last thing you saw was Tana's face looming over you as you then blacked out for surgery?
That would be terrifying.
I was like, that would be the worst thing that ever happened to me.
That would be, I mean, I would not recognize his face because I'm terrible with faces, especially on the show. But I could see, I mean, there's a lot of people that watch Stargate that aren't me. So, yes. Do we know, like, is he like in a small town hospital now, or is he
No,
like in a
he works in LA.
Oh, good. So everyone knows him then too. Like, because he's in the like acting world. Cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool. Cool, cool.
Cool. Yeah, great. Good times.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's why he
so
became an anesthesiologist, was just to
no,
terrify
well,
people.
no, he went to medical school before he started acting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but
He
um
wanted you to hate him before so that you were terrified when you went in
maybe
later.
it's all a long game.
And making him the bad guy in real life. It's fine.
Um, and so we start this episode with a previously on, but it's all just clips from the first half of the two-parter. And my favorite thing about Stargate two-parters is that um every time there's a Stargate two-parter, when there's the voiceover that says previously on, and then it has all of the like clips, it then always goes to Teal'c's voice saying, and now the conclusion. And I don't know why, but it's my favorite thing.
Because we love Teal'c. We love
But also, it's
conclusion.
just such a weird way to
It
say
is.
that.
Because they're trying to be dramatic. Like, this is
Yeah,
the 90s, early 2000s. Like,
that's true. It is
it's so
2002. Everything
dramatic.
is so dramatic. Um, So as we left off last week's episode with Sarah coming to corner Daniel in Yu's quarters and say that she recognized him. Um, and because we're talking about both of these episodes in one day, I like am just overwhelmed by how much there still is left in this story. Like I like was like, we did one episode and now we have to do the second episode. And I was like, yeah, but that's where the second episode starts. There's so much still to happen.
There's so much that happened in this episode. I was glad that like because we watched the other one in preparation for Monday. So it's been like
Yeah.
4 days since I watched that one. I was like, it's okay. It wasn't as active. If I had watched this one 4 days ago, I would have had to rewatch it today to
Yeah.
make sure I didn't forget what happened.
I mean, to be fair though, I still only have like 3 pages of notes. So, um, but so Sarah threatens Daniel and pulls a knife on him, and he
Good.
pricks her. He pricks her with the ring and convinces her that he's Jaren, so she's not gonna attack him anymore. And he
And I
also,
didn't realize he still had that ring handy. Like they very clearly were like, don't hurt yourself with this. I would have put it away in a safe place after getting you because no one else knew him. And I guess it's good that he had it on him,
right.
but
No, it's great that he had it on him. He probably should definitely keep it on him just in case, but also I would stab myself.
right. I would immediately.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think I would have made it to you, and that was a very quick transition. Like so.
He also like comments on the fact that she has a weapon and no one's supposed to have weapons on board, and she's like, yeah, what are you gonna do about it, basically?
Mhm.
And Jacob tells Daniel that he has to release the poison, but he is being Daniel. This is where we get Daniel 1.0 instead of the nice Daniel 2.0 we got a couple weeks ago
Right.
because he can't kill Sarah.
And can I tell you, if this isn't the epitome of Daniel Jackson, like I am so sick of him. Like I just want him to get it together. Stop deciding you love women who you may or may not, who don't care if you exist anymore, and ruining the entire world because of it. Because it's not like we've talked about this before, but it's not like he's like, I love this girl, I'm not killing her, and then she like makes someone sick or like goes to mental institute or like kills one person. It's like the entire world is now at stake because you let one person live. Like, and I get that
Yeah.
it had to happen for the storyline to like keep all these system lords alive and whatnot. But
Yeah.
come on, Daniel. Come on.
Yeah, it's really sad. I don't. Yeah. it's genuinely confusing how 5 seasons into this episode, he has not learned anything, or into the show, he's not learned
Nothing.
anything.
Nothing. Not one thing.
Yeah.
He's gone backwards.
Um, yeah, but then we have the credits, so we have a little bit of time to just like dwell on the fact that Daniel is a sad boy TM. Um,
Making the wrong choice yet again.
um, so then Elliot reminds Sam that the Tok'ra make tunnels with the crystals, and they can use them to make more tunnels to get themselves out. So Jack has to go to the lab to find the crystals, and Sam's like, grab a communicator while you're out there. Um, and then we go back up to the spaceship, and Osiris is talking about to the all the other system lords about having the other system lords allow Anubis to return to the Alliance. And she's talking about Anubis and all the things that he's been up to. And Daniel backs out of using the toxin when he hears that. Which
that is
the fact that he even had it out of his pocket and was going to use it, even though Sarah was in there, like that's the most credit I can give him. It's a step, but
and like it was the right choice once we
yes,
once we learned about Anubis. But
yeah, especially as there's more to come in this episode, but about things that we find out about Anubis. But in that moment, the whole point of killing all these system lords was to create a vacuum, and if there's someone powerful enough to sweep in and fill that vacuum, it isn't helping the Tok'ra. So it's just showing their hand on what weapons they have. So
once you kill all the system lords and there's like one that's taken over, it takes over all of those people, and now it has a bigger army than it did before.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So he did in fact make the right choice. Even if we're still questioning his abilities here. Back on Ravana, Jack and Teal get to the lab and realize that all of the Tok'ra bodies are gone, which means that the ground armies of the Jaffa have been in the tunnels. And then they hear the Jaffa coming, so they like take a bunch of them out. They're just shooting people. So that's good for them. Good for them. Great. Then I actually really liked this next scene because Daniel goes to radio Jacob and fill him in on all the information we've already had, which the one thing I will say about the structure of this two-parter is that it is a little frustrating that every time we learn information, we then have a scene of Daniel telling Jacob everything that we just learned. Like, here's a summary of the last scene. But this one was great because he filled Jacob in, and then Selmak popped out and was like, this is bad news bears. Like, you say that you think that this is bad, you don't comprehend this is
how bad it is. Yeah,
how bad this is. And he's like, all right, new plan, you have to stay there and get as much information as you possibly can.
Yeah, which is like, God, literally I wish it was anyone but Daniel every time. Like
Then we go back to Ravana, where we have a really long and unnecessary scene where Sam is like trying to take care of Elliot, and Elliot is like telling her about how Lantash and Martouf like loved her, and everything is so sad because he's gonna die on his first mission. And Sam's like, you know what you signed up for. And he was like, whatever.
Okay,
like
but it still sucks. Like,
right. Yeah. And so this is, I mean, and it's sad, and it helps like you get some more like depth to Sam's character, and also to like give Elliot, because it would be really sad if we didn't have a lot of Elliot scenes and it was just like, welcome back, die.
Yeah.
So we have some good,
and like it feels like closure for Sam too, because with Martouf and Lantash and everything, like it feels a little more like closure than we got the first time.
Right. And so like I get it, but I was just like, this episode is so high energy that this scene was a downer.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Um, in the middle of these two, I kind of conflated two scenes because we have two full scenes of Sam and Elliot complaining. But in the middle of those, one of the Jaffa First Prime reports to Zapakna and says like and tells him what's going on the ground, and Zapakna was like, okay, well then go find the survivors. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Um, While Daniel is skulking around the summit ship, he finds a weird bowl of gold symbiotes.
This was not enjoyable. What's to come?
Back on the planet, Jack radios Sam and Elliot, and or radios Sam and is talking to her, and Elliot like helps direct them which crystals to use to open the tunnel, and like they start to make their way out and get out of the trapped thing.
Also,
Um,
speaking of this crystal conversation, it's kind
yeah.
of off topic, but like he's like, I should really be telling you this because I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I should, and I feel like in every other movie, every other scene, they're like, no, no, don't worry about that. Like, we're gonna save you. Everything's gonna be fine. No, I don't feel like none of them were like, yeah, no, you're gonna die. You should probably just tell us. Like, no one was fighting it. And like, I understand that they kind of knew,
Yeah, it's one of
but
those things. It's one of those things where, like, when you're emotionally upset, it's our job to
mhm,
try to like make you feel better. But in this
yeah,
case, if you don't, then we all die. So
right.
you're
It's just,
not wrong.
it's just such a trope, and then it didn't happen here, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
right.
fine.
Um, Back on the spaceship, Osiris is alone with you outside of our whole group of system lords. And this is, and if you were listening to last week's episode, I was talking a little bit about how you is seems very different than a lot of the system lords. And this is one of the scenes that really like hones that in, like drives that point home, because she was like, oh, sorry, or Sarah's like telling them that we have this issue and that the Earth is the biggest problem, and that as long as the Tauri continues to like get weapons and continue to like defeat system lords, the gold are never going to win. And he was like, but the Asgard Treaty protects them. And she's like, fuck the Asgard Treaty. And he's like, no, no, you can't, but you can't.
No,
Um,
no, it's very important not to upset the Asgards.
right. And she's like, yes, you're right. But the Asgard Treaty only uh binds system lords from attacking Earth, and well, Anubis is dead. So
That is true, I guess.
yeah. So she basically
But
says that if they vote to um keep Anubis and make him a system lord before he joins their ranks, he will attack and destroy Earth before becoming a system lord. So it simultaneously gets rid of their enemies without breaking the treaty.
not a fan of that decision.
Um, yeah. Then we have a scene of SG-1 still wandering around the tunnels with no water and no way to escape. Good times.
Yep.
Then we go back to reporter Daniel, who is telling Jacob about Anubis's plan and the vat of symbiotes. And Jacob's like, and he's like, I think they're gonna try to like turn us into gold at the end of the summit. And Jacob's like, yeah, let me get you out of there. He's like, I think I need just a little bit more time. For what?
Get out, Daniel.
Like,
Stop.
for what, Daniel? Um, so then the system lords do their vote to bring Anubis back, and only you votes against it. Which you is my favorite system lord
Our
right
main
now.
man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but Baal's like, you know what? It's 6-1. It doesn't have to be unanimous. Well, Anubis is back in. And before they get to the business of discussing the actual terms of the treaty, they bring in the vat of symbiotes. And then they all take symbiotes out of the vat and begin eating them.
I just wrote, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, what is going on here? This feels like the opposite of what they're interested in. Like, aren't they trying to create more gold? And so, like, you would want to have the symbiotes into humans
Yeah,
so
but
that you can create more gold, but instead they're eating them.
yeah, but they don't really want to create more gold because they want to be the only ones in charge.
Well, they won't be the only ones in charge, but they still need like armies, like that they
They
don't
do.
have to care about, like throw them to
Yeah.
the wild.
Yeah. We did find out earlier in the first half of this episode, or like in the first half of the two-parter, that the Goa'uld typically, historically, are like an ever expanding population, and like
Hmm.
recently, their numbers aren't getting bigger.
Yeah,
So this is a fun.
good times, good times.
Also, it was just one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
So bad. It made me so upset. I was just like, I had to look away. I was like, please don't do this anymore.
Um, After a while of not hearing any Jaffa walking around the tunnels in Ravana, SG-1 tunnels out and heads to a sensor that is 25 miles away from the Stargate where they can contact Jacob and let him know that they're stuck there. Then we see a scene where Daniel is speaking to another one of the low tours, who is Baal's servant. And Daniel
Bane of my
can't
existence.
help but Daniel. And he's like, why do you like, do you think that these gold are like a problem? And this poor kid is like, I only hope that one day I will be allowed to have implantation and become a gold.
What does he think? Like, I understand they call them slaves, but like these people don't seem to mind. They feel like they're trying to be like servants until they can build their way up. And also,
Yeah.
like, this kid is never gonna be a system lord. Like, let's be real. He is not. He's not that guy.
Um,
But I guess you can dream if
but
you want.
Daniel's like, all humans have a sense of freedom and they want this, and I'm gonna do the right thing. And this kid is like, riches and power and immortality, please.
Yeah,
Again,
of course.
you cannot put your moral code on another group of people.
Exactly. You can't expect everyone to be like you. And like he's been
Oh.
working with these system lords for what was it, 24, 25 years, something like
Yeah, he said he's been Baal's personal servant for 24 years.
so like he would be, I don't know. It's very
Also,
clear that he wants
based
to
on
be
his
king.
age, if he's been Baal's personal servant for 24 years, he started when he was what, 3?
Three. Yeah.
Like, he's a child.
Yeah.
You're not convincing him shit.
Especially, yeah, he doesn't know any other different life. Like,
Yeah.
and he sees how much they get away with and how much they get. Like, of course you'd want that too if that's the life you've always lived.
Yeah. The system lords are interrogating Osiris to like find out what Anubis is really going to offer them. And she goes, surprise, the whole time I've been here, what you don't know is that we've been destroying the Tok'ra.
Yeah.
Um,
Surprise. Are the Tok'ra not a part of the Asgardian treaty? Hmm. Renegades.
yes. SG-1 thinks that they can make it to the sensor in 9 hours, which is a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I will say, in terms of things that I appreciate, we talk all the time about how everything on all of these planets is apparently only within walking distance of the Stargate, and like it doesn't make any sense that they don't go anywhere else. So like,
Right.
while this was not the time to tell me that they needed to walk 25 miles, at least they can.
Right. And I will say, to be fair, if I'm going to a new planet, I'm also going to be within walking distance to the Stargate.
Yeah, sure.
Um, I'm not trying to explore farther than that, just in case someone tries to kill me, because they almost die all the time anyways. And no one's
True.
even like they're not even that far.
True. Um, Daniel tells one of the other servants to have Osiris meet you in his private quarters. And then he tells Jacob that they need to leave because they need to go take check on the Tok'ra because of everything that Osiris just said, but that his new plan is to kidnap Sarah and bring her with him when he leaves.
Like, all she wants to do is kill him. Why on earth? Why on earth, Daniel Jackson? Just let it go. Like, she's fine. She's clearly getting away with a lot of stuff on her own. Like, you don't need to protect her. You already didn't kill her when you should have. And like, let it go.
Yeah. But then we also find out that Lotor rats Daniel in and tells you that Daniel
Absolutely he
can't be
does.
trusted because of course he fucking
Of
did.
course he does. Yeah. Daniel's a
Um,
moron.
so Daniel tries to kidnap Sarah and you stops him because he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And Sarah stabs you and then she tries to kill Daniel, who tells her who he really is to break the spell of the potion and then jumps in an escape pod.
I'm so over him. He is such a moron sometimes.
Um, yeah. Back on Earth, Elliot tells them how
Also,
to
like,
not Earth, but
we also know how Goa'ulds work. Like, it doesn't matter really what Sarah wants. I mean, Sharae loved him, but once she had the Goa'uld in her, that was like that won out
yeah,
every time. Why does he think that Osiris, one of the, big system lords, would not win out against Sarah?
yeah,
Like,
because we still 5 seasons in, and this is not a Daniel problem. This is kind of an everyone in SG and like SGC's problem. They still refuse to believe that a Goa'uld implementation is permanent. They're like, they have the Goa'uld in them, but like we can take it out again.
yeah.
It has successfully worked 0 times.
Hmm.
And yet they are still so convinced that they can save people. Oh, I'm sorry. It has successfully worked once. And that was with Skara, but they didn't do it. The Tolan did.
Oh, right. Right. Didn't Jack have one go in him, but it was like 10 minutes or something?
Jack had one go in him, but they killed it before it actually like got to his
Gotcha.
brainstem.
Gotcha.
Because that's a question that comes up a lot because like Sam has her Tok'ra superpower, her
Hmm.
Spidey sense, and Jack doesn't, but it's because
Right.
Hathor's Goa'uld never actually attached to his brainstem.
Right. That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. So back on Ravana, Elliot tells them how to reprogram the sensor in case he doesn't make it while they're on their way there. So again, he's sure he's going to die. Um, Daniel and Jacob head back to Ravana to see what is going on the Toka base. Um, Zapakna's Jaffa sees Jacob's ship and goes to report about it. But Zapakna is pissed because they still haven't found the survivors on Earth. How are 4 people escaping 400 Jaffa?
You
Y'all
know?
suck at your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so Jacob is in orbit of the planet, but he gets the message from the sensors that says that the base is compromised and that they need to assume that there are no survivors. And he starts to leave. But Sam reprograms the sensor to send Jacob an SOS sign in time that he has not left the planet. And he gets it and he heads in, but he's hit by a glider that was tracking him, and the ship crash lands on the planet. Um, Jack and Teal go in to see what's going on, and the ship is damaged. And the 4 of them come back to Sam and Elliot. And then Elliot offers himself up as a sacrifice because he's already dying anyway. And he chooses to take the toxin and kill as many Jaffa as possible um, in order to clear the way that they can go through the Stargate and get out of there. Um, my mom saw only the very end of this episode as I was watching it this morning while she was getting ready for work. And she was like, is that just like a one-off Tok'ra? And I was like, no. And I explained who Elliot was and who Lantash was. And she goes, oh, okay. She was like, the Martouf thing is why Sam's acting the way she is, because that didn't make any
Yeah.
sense for her to be that emotional about this kid dying. And I
Yeah.
was like, correct. Yes, you
But
are
also, it was
right.
like, that was a really strange choice. Like, we introduced Elliot and made this big thing about him, like, what, like 5 episodes ago? And
Yep.
then we bring him back just to kill him,
Yep.
unless he doesn't actually use the toxin and no one dies.
Um,
I assume it's the first,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
I assume it never comes back again. But,
Wait,
like,
so
such a bummer. Like,
so I will tell you, this was not the original plan for how Elliot was going to go out. Um, but they actually had intentions to show that the Tok'ra did in fact save Martouf and Lantash, but JR had a filming conflict and couldn't come back. So they decided to um
kill
write
Elliot
it
instead.
to write it in this way, but they had to choose a character that we would have some emotional attachment for it to even come close to the way we would have felt
Mhm.
if it was Martouf. So that's why they chose to have Elliot go out this way.
I see. I mean, he
Yes.
is nothing like Martooth, but
Oh no, but still,
that's
if it would have been
fine.
a random person that we didn't care about, like
Yeah,
it wouldn't have had the same emotional impact.
sure.
And so that was changed between the original draft of the script and what went up because JR had a filming conflict and could not come back to reprise Martooth. And that was one of the things that was in my trivia of things that I can't talk about before we do both parts of the episode.
Right. Right. Because Elliot hadn't
Yeah.
died yet.
Yeah. And of course, unfortunately, we that is Elliot's swan song. Um,
Nice,
um,
nice.
the only real trivia that I really want to talk about though is this vat of gold.
No, I don't want to talk about that. I hate them.
Um, you're going to hate this even more.
Oh,
So,
God.
no, but like in a different way. So when they did that scene, usually the gold on set are like rubber props,
Mm-hmm.
and then only the ones that are like actually implanting people and stuff are CGI. But
Yeah.
for this scene, they had to actually be able to bite into them. So there was a vat of water and the and there was prop guys who when they would reach their hands in and pull it out, they would slip a burrito into their hands that was filled with beans and noodles. Um, and then it was CGI'd to look like the gold after it, but they would take these like long, thin burritos and bite into them, and the noodles would drip out, and that's how you would be able to see the
It's so
gold
funny.
guts like that. But the Martin Wood was like, my actors were such good sports because that scene took an hour to film. And so for an hour, they
Jeez.
just had to keep biting into these burritos. But also, they were borderline inedible with the amount of things that were in them. So after every take, somebody would come around with a spit bucket for them to throw out all their bean noodle burritos into.
Oh, no. That sounds miserable.
So it was just an hour of these actors biting into inedible
The
burritos with
burritos. Oh,
noodles dripping
gosh.
out of them.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That is genius for like shooting wise, for like
Yeah.
visual. Miserable for life. Like,
I could not imagine. But that is like my favorite behind the scenes story ever because like that's just awful.
that is so wild.
And if you think about it, that was on screen for maybe like a 30 seconds. And
Maybe,
it was
yeah.
it was an hour of shooting. And people don't realize just how terrible film shoots can be. That tells you everything you need to know.
That's so funny.
Um,
Ugh,
yeah. So,
goodness gracious.
uh,
Are you okay?
sorry. Yeah, I looked at my phone and I had 15 text messages and I was like, the fuck, but it's from the group chat about the party that I can't go to.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. No, I pulled up my phone so that I could look at what the next episode was so that I could
Gotcha.
give you spoilers. But while I'm doing that, what thoughts, theories, predictions do you have now that we have so many new big bads?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things. I would like for Osiris to die so that Daniel Jackson has less temptation. I want you to become a good guy. I want him to join the Tok'ra. I understand that's not really
Okay.
how it works,
Right.
but I like him and I want him to be on the good side. Um, I don't think we're gonna see Anubis till the finale. I
Okay.
think he might be in the finale. And I feel like we're not gonna really come to really any of these system lords this go round, other than I mean you because you didn't die, right? Like they just attacked him. He's not like dead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he just
So
got
like
stabbed.
I could see maybe you coming back around or like Osiris, obviously, but like for the most part, I think all of these are getting moved to next season because we have what, like 7 episodes left.
We
So
do. One,
yeah.
two,
And I think we're gonna
three,
hit Anubis in
four,
the
five.
finale.
We have 6 episodes left, actually.
Mm,
Um, and I will tell you that my spoiler for next week is that it is unrelated entirely from everything that we just
correct. Yeah,
talked
that
about.
tracks. That tracks. It's yeah, no. We get the
I
most
actually saw
Stargate episode to come up to something completely off the wall. Yeah, no problem.
I actually saw a Screen Rant article today that was like 12 TV shows that prove why filler episodes need to come back. And I was like, okay, but have you tried watching Stargate 1 week at a time? Because we don't need filler. We don't need filler episodes.
No, and like maybe like one a season. Like I get that. Like
Yeah.
for some levity, especially if it's like a horror show or something like, but that's usually handled by like a
Well, but I
holiday.
also think that makes sense. We just had a big two-parter, really heavy episode,
Hmm.
and we have 6 episodes left. And so if you figure the usually the way these kind of seasons work, the last 3 tend to be pretty story driven. So we have 6 episodes left. And we had a huge two-parter, and we have to think that the last 3 are going to be related to something somehow. That means we have 3 episodes in the middle, and it in the way TV was at the time, you can't have all 3 of those episodes be heavy story. Like,
No,
and it is the difference between weekly 2000s television and internet era television. Like it is totally different,
sure.
but if next week wasn't a filler episode, it would be more surprising, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. And we do have to come down a bit. We've had a lot going on lately, so we have to come down a bit.
Yeah.
But
Because what, yeah, before the two-parter, what did we have before the two-parter?
it was
Oh, Teal'c almost died.
yeah, Tilk almost died. The episode before that was the trainees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got, yeah, we've got some interesting stuff coming up, but next week is not one.
That's okay. That's fine. Sure, sure, sure.
So yeah, with that, who would you like to punch?
I would like to punch Daniel Jackson.
Yeah. That means I have to think of someone else to punch.
I knew it was
Um,
coming.
I knew. I don't know why I had for a second, split second of doubt that you were gonna punch Daniel because I've never seen someone more punchable in my entire life. Um, I'm gonna go with Osiris.
Fair. That would have been
Yeah.
the second for
Yeah.
sure.
In terms of an actual bad guy of the episode, obviously
Right.
Osiris is the problem, but Daniel's just so fucking punchable. Um,
Yeah.
who is your MVP?
I guess I'm gonna have to go with Elliot.
That's
Um,
fair.
because he sacrificed himself for everyone. Even though he's brand new and doesn't know what he's doing. So that's sad for him. He's had his whole life ahead of him,
That is
and
sad for him.
it didn't work. So I guess I would do that. I would go with him.
That's fair. I'm gonna pick Jacob. And I'm gonna talk about a moment that we talked about, but we didn't talk about the dialogue on the episode
Mhm.
in the moment. But when they crash landed on Earth, Jacob gets injured pretty badly. And Daniel says, for a race so advanced that they fly around in spaceships, you think they'd have seatbelts. And Jacob says, we usually just prefer not to crash.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
If
Goodness
that
gracious.
doesn't if that doesn't explain like space in general, because how many fucking TV shows and movies about spaceships have seatbelts?
None. None of them.
No. Unless it is like fucking a biopic about the Apollo ships or an actual
Hmm.
legitimate like NASA spaceship, no one has seatbelts.
They wander around half the time. They're not even sitting
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The ship just flies on autopilot in hyperdrive and they just wander around and drink cocktails. And I'm so
Yeah.
confused.
Right. Yeah.
I saw a car today, like on the thruway behind me, and I was so convinced that it was a driverless car because I couldn't see the
Mhm.
driver that I
Mhm.
panicked and I was like trying to figure out how to get as far away from it as possible on the road. And then it came up next to me and there was in fact a human being in it and I felt a little bit bad, but I was like scared that I was sharing the road with a driverless car.
Look, it's happening. They were all over San Francisco when I went.
Oh my God.
Um, it is what it is. I thought I had started seeing them in New York City. I didn't. Because the ones in San Francisco have like a spinning thing on the top of the car, which is I'm sure how it tracks stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and so I saw a car with that on the top of it the other day, and I was like, oh my God, they're here. And it was just not. It was like I think it was one of those things where you could like put a sign in it so it spins when you're driving. So it was definitely like a
Mm,
company vehicle.
right.
But there were definitely people in it. So
I can't.
yeah. Um, yeah.
Well, with that, if you have thoughts, theories, questions, if you want to pick a new system lord to be who you think we should focus on for the next set of big bads in the show, um, please email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com or find us on any of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And we will see you on Thursday for our Thriller Thursday movie edition and announcement of our next show. Bye.